Hey everybody. This is chapter 7 in our building construction class. And chapter 7 is on wood frame construction. Finally, we're getting to talk about some specifics of types of building construction. So in this chapter, we're going to look at the terminology, tons of terminology in this textbook. Associated with wood construction, the 6 types of wood frame structures that are classified as type 5. And you remember when we're talking about type 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, those are the NFPA classifications of building types. 5 is wood frame. Identify some fire protection differences between balloon frame and platform frame. Describe the construction of platform frame building. Understand how a truss is constructed and how it performs from a fire protection standpoint or perspective. Explain the difference between fire stopping and draft stopping. Describe the behavior of an engineered and manufactured wood products under fire attack, and look at the different types of sheathing, siding, and roofing materials. So I don't know about y'all, but I feel like when we're done with this class, I won't be able to build a house. I hopefully will be able to build a fire-safe house. That would be the most important thing to think about. So wood is the most common, or has been in the past, the most common thing that houses residential structures are built, whether it's multifamily, single family, it's all wood. And there's a variety of reasons for that, I'm sure. It has always been that way. It is cost effective, not real great from a fire protection standpoint. Because we all know that as wood burns, the strength is lost, the strength of the structure is lost, and that results in collapse, which is always a hazard under fire conditions for firefighters. One of the things too that building with wood or wood built structures create void spaces, and we'll talk about some of those void spaces. Whether it is a remodel, whether it's truss construction has its own void spaces there. And then, of course, wood in thin sections does have a very rapid flame spread. So some big problems with wood frame, but yet it is one of the most common things of which houses, residential structures are built. And I'm going through your book here on page 192, there is a bunch of terms that refer to different types of wood frame construction. And some of those I just want to mention. One that's listed here is heavy timber, and we're going to learn about that in another chapter. Heavy timbers, type 4. It's kind of a different type of construction, has different fire protection features, but so we're not going to talk about that. It's lumber that is 8 inches or more in its smallest dimensions. So we'll talk about that in another chapter. Of course, legacy construction. This is what you might refer to as, we used to refer to as stick built, or it's all, it is solid wood members as opposed to truss construction. That's referred to as legacy construction, and you see that a lot today, the term a lot today. It's kind of the way houses used to be built, and they still can be built that way. You can also have, let's see, I'm looking to see what, those are just some of the terms that I wanted to mention and point out to you. There's a lot of different types of wood frame buildings or wood frame construction. There's 6 different types according to your book. Log cabin, which kind of speaks for itself. Post and frame, and we'll look at what that is. Balloon frame, sometimes called Eastern framing. Platform frame, sometimes called Western framing. Plank and beam, and then the truss frame. So log cabin kind of speaks for itself. We all have seen those. Certainly, they're coming back in fashion. I was actually looking online at some houses the other day, and there was a couple of their log homes, and you can buy them. You used to could buy kits. I don't know if you can still do that anymore. Or there's really true log homes that are built, you know, I guess stick built is the term that I use. Legacy construction, I think. Post and frame. This is something that is an older type of construction method. On page 194, it shows you a picture of that. It's another term. Joints are constructed by mortise and tenon, or socket and tongue. So they kind of fit together a little bit better. They're pinned with wooden pegs. So it's an older type of construction, something that we may not see a lot of today. Balloon frame construction, I have seen an awful lot of that. It's in the towns that I have lived in. A lot of older, I don't want to call them antebellum, but that type of home, a lot of mill houses are balloon frame construction. And I would encourage you, I'm going to talk about this some more at the end of the video, but I go look for some of these in your communities, especially if you live in an older community or you're visiting an older community. You're going to find some balloon frame construction. Basically, the studs run 2 or more stories high, and there's nothing that stops it. That's the balloon piece, as I draw in the air here. That's where they get their name. There's no fire stopping installed to keep fire from spreading from floor to floor. They're called channels. This is the space between the joists. They're just open from the bottom to the top. Present day methods, if they use balloon frame today, which I don't really think too many places do. Now I'm not a builder, so I could be wrong, but they may use that fire stopping that we'll talk about a little bit later. If it's a remodeled type of balloon frame construction. Fires, of course, you can see the impact of what fires would be in a balloon frame construction. I worked a fire one time as an investigator. There was a fire death, and it was a 2-story wood frame construction, balloon frame construction, older home, probably the 30s. And it was a little bit run down. Actually, I think it was a duplex, or had been turned into a duplex, like a side-by-side type of a duplex, so that both sides of it went straight up, were 2 stories. And one of the biggest discussions I've ever had with an insurance investigator was whether the fire started upstairs in this kind of attic-y space area and went down, or whether the fire started down and then went up the chase. We never came to a conclusion. I thought it started down and went up through that chase, that channel. He said he thought it went down. And we never could decide on that. So, you know, as it says in the book, the basement is usually the worst place for a fire to start in a wood frame construction home. In that balloon frame construction, because the fire does move quickly through those channels. It's just like a chimney, and we all know what happens with chimneys in a fire. So you may not, like I say, I don't know if they still build them. I'm not sure, and I must admit that I did not read extensively here what the purpose was for the balloon frame, whether it saved on the cost. Let me see if I can find that. It started in 1833. Inexpensive machine-made nails could be used. They used it instead of post and frame. Anyway, I'll let you read that part. So balloon frame is another type. Platform frame. The first floor is built as a platform. So this means that subflooring is laid on the joist, and the frame for the first floor walls is erected on the first floor. So it's just what it says. It's a platform, and then subflooring is put down on that, and then the frame for the rest of the walls is built on that. 3 stories is usually the limit for platform frame construction. On page 198 in your book, There is a picture of that platform frame, of a platform frame house. It kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like. As opposed to balloon frame construction, where there's this continuity from top to bottom all the way up. There's no continuity from top to bottom in platform frame, which isn't really a good thing. It may limit some of that fire spread. Okay, let's see here. I'm looking to make sure. There's one common vertical means of fire spread in both balloon frame and platform frame, the open stairwell. So that's another commonality that those two things have. There's some information and lots of terms about that relate to platform frame buildings. Plank and beam is another type, and you'll see that on page 200 in your book. There's a picture there. Plank and beams, the planks, it's more attractive, more economical, or so it used to be. Instead of multiple floor beams that are placed 16 inches apart, heavier beams are used and they're spaced much farther apart. Then that thick finished tongue and groove type of planks are used. So it's more of a tongue and groove construction. Houses, if you have ever had a fire in a tongue and groove, they're tight. And it's very hard to, boy, those are hard to overhaul, especially when the ceiling may be that tongue and groove type of planking. It has the very positive benefits from firefighting because it does reduce the concealed spaces where fire can be. And then we move on to trusses and what we call lightweight construction. Again, obviously, probably more economical than ever before. They're stapled together, they're glued together. It scares me. I don't know about you guys, but when I think about it, but that is what we see a lot of today. And we know that lightweight wood trusses can be very dangerous for firefighters. They've been used since about the 1960s, so relatively new in the field of construction and building. The dangers of the floors, the roofs, all of those possess great dangers. And again, I'm just kind of zooming through the book. I want you to go through the PowerPoint and read. A Branniganism, we've talked about those before, that's on page 203. Firefighters do not belong on or under burning trusses. Nobody can predict when failure will occur. Gravity acts the moment the gravity resistance system is not adequate by as little as one molecule. There was a fire death that was reported, a line of duty death reported just this week. And I'm going to try to post some information on the website because I want us to research it a little bit. But looking at the picture, I would bet this is wood truss construction in a very large home. That I'm trying to actually think where, in Tennessee. It was in Tennessee somewhere outside of Nashville. And a firefighter died. But the interesting part to me is that the fire was called in at 4:30 in the afternoon. And he was in the structure fighting fire, they said, when it collapsed. And I believe that the time was at 8 p.m. So 3.5 hours later. That's what Brannigan's talking about. Not only think about how that structure had been weakened. I'm not one to armchair quarterback, and I want to make sure that you understand that. But I want us to do some more research about that, and I'm going to post that information on the webpage and get you to do a little bit of research into that. There may not be much out about it now. I'm sure that for future classes, that will be something that we will want to look at because I feel sure NIOSH will probably do a report on that. But there's lots of dangers. There's all kinds of voids in truss construction. There's a truss void, a truss loft, the hazards of the cock loft between the top floor ceiling and the roof. And then there is the hazard that is created by between the floor and the ceiling of the floor below it. These are areas where, residential sprinklers would just do an amazing job in these types of homes. Very, very serious. There's a discussion on page 205 about lightweight wooden I-beams and construction, about truss framing, and then fire stopping and draft stopping. We need to recognize that there's a difference there between fire stopping and draft stopping. They do both limit the spread of fire by preventing the movement of the flame. Fire stops typically limit vertical movement through the small concealed passages, under stairs, and inside walls. Think about that balloon frame construction. Fire stopping material could be a nominal thickness or two thicknesses. Draft stopping is more horizontal movement through large concealed passages such as open web floor trusses or attics. So when we think about draft stopping, it's horizontal. Fire stopping is more vertical. So it goes on to talk about some types of fire stopping: inherent fire stopping, which is just normal building construction. Think about, floors that can act as that fire stopping. And then there's legal fire stopping, which is installed for no other purpose than to meet a code. So they can provide that barrier to the spread of fire. I'm going to let you read how there are some ways to protect wood from ignition. Impregnation, surface coating, dangerous treated wood, those kinds of things. I'm going to let you read the rest of this because it does go into a lot of technical information about definitions. Again, this book is so filled with definitions that, and that's one of the things I want us to talk about in the class, to see if we can kind of bring out some of the important ones and maybe make our own glossary somehow as a part of that. One thing I do want to mention, he talks about siding. We need to make sure we know the difference between brick and brick veneer, what those things look like. Brick structures have great press. Brick veneer siding is popular for a lot of wood frame residences, but it's not the same as brick. It is laid up against the foundation. It may, if it's not attached to something, it can be very unstable. It may be attached to the wall. So it used to be easy to spot brick veneer because they were laid lengthwise and there was no headers that were laid with the end showing. And apparently it is not that way anymore. Some buildings combine them up now. You may have stone veneer. Wood shingle roofing, that's another type of wood construction component. Of course, in areas that are prone to wildfires, that is one of the things that we educate against, is wood shake shingles, because it's just like having kindling on your roof and having some sort of tile roof or retardant type of roof. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. The last paragraph there talks about making wood construction safe. It is, it's a renewable wood resource. I live in timber country, and that's a part of the state that timber is the major industry here. It's going to continue to be around, but unfortunately, it's combustible. It burns, and automatic fire sprinkler protection. It says it right here in your book is one of the best ways to deal with that. I'm also going to try to post, I've got to try to find it. I heard a lady speak last year. She lost her brother and his wife, and there was 4 kids that were killed in a fire. And I want to say the home was about 10,000 square feet. All it would have taken was a sprinkler. It was a very large, very nice home. Again, sprinkler was needed. So that is one of our best, we can get treated wood, we can treat wood, but our best bet on combating fires in wood structures is residential sprinklers. So What I'd like for you to do, in addition to, make sure again you read the technical considerations because there are many. Look at the key terms as well. This is type 5 construction. We're going to start talking about 4, 3, 2, and 1. As we go through these chapters and you're out in your community, stop and take a picture. If you have, if there's new construction in your area where they're using truss construction, stop and take a couple of pictures, and we'll create not a glossary, but a collection of pictures. I'm still working on your project for this class, and it may involve something along those same lines. But think about this balloon frame construction. If you live in an area where there's balloon frame construction and you have the opportunity to stop and take a picture, maybe they're doing some remodeling. If you tell somebody you're a firefighter and you just want to take some pictures of the construction piece for training, they're all over it. They should be anyway. So as you're out and about in your community, begin to try to look at, and a lot of times you may not know until you're inside people's homes or on calls for other things, but begin to think about the different types of constructions and, in a sense, your pre-fire planning. Try to take some pictures. There's a place in the discussion board to upload pictures. Upload some of those. Make sure you identify what it is and where it's from, and that way we can keep track of that. I'm going to post the information about the fire, that the line of duty death from this week. We may talk about that in our call on a week from Monday. And I will also post the information about the fire, the lady that I heard. I have to come up with her name, and I saw it just the other day. But I'm going to come up with that information. Hope there's a web page for it so that you can look at that information as well. This is, I believe, the last chapter before your midterm. So I'm not assigning you a written assignment for chapter 7. If I'm wrong, which I don't think I am, let me stand by. No, this is the last chapter before your midterm. Your midterm starts February the 26th. So I'm not going to assign you a written assignment. There's not a discussion board, but read through this, get ready for it. We'll have our class on the 26th, our virtual class. I've sent that email out today. I think that's it. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great day.